Thank you. Thank you, Anna, very much indeed. Yes, hi, I am Susan. I'm the founder of Turner's Oak, and we are the only estate agency and advisory service supporting older homeowners and their families navigate the uniqueness of moving home in later life. But why did I found Turner's Oak? Well, let me ask you this question. As Anna says, what was it like the last time you moved? Maybe it was amazing, maybe it was hassle-free, maybe it was enjoyable. But more often than not, it was probably one of these things: stressful, impersonal, transactional. Moving home is one of the most stressful things that we can do. I've been an estate agent, for my sins, for 16 years. I've seen the good, the bad and the ugly, and I really love helping people to move home. Moving home is often about more than buying and selling a property. It's normally a major life transition. And as a estate agent, I get to help people navigate that transition. But unfortunately, over time, I realised that the estate agency industry is not customer-centric. Estate agency is short-sighted and focused on how quickly can we list this property, sell this property, and move on to the next one. All of our reward mechanisms, targets, and metrics are based on that. And all too often, the person at the centre of it, the older homeowner, is left behind and forgotten. Experiencing these things when you're making an aspirational move in your 30s or 40s is challenging enough. Experiencing them in your 70s or 80s when you're maybe making a reluctant move is really difficult. It can be paralysing for people. I've witnessed this professionally, but I've also witnessed it personally. Here's Julie. She's a family friend, and she was widowed, and she needed to move back to Newcastle to be close to her son. The idea of moving overwhelmed her. Keith had always done the property things and the financial things, and I couldn't help her with her move because I wasn't selling in an area that she worked. But I said, I'll help you pick your best estate agent. And we sat on the sofa in her home, and we heard these 3 estate agents wax lyrical about how amazing they were, showing her pie charts of their successes, one of them drawing some kind of graph about buyer profile and pricing. And all this did was raise her anxiety and overwhelm her even more. They knew why she was moving, they knew why I was there to support her, and yet still they treated her like a listing to be won and a property to be sold. And I was furious and ashamed of my industry. And then I saw it with my mum. She needed to downsize for mobility reasons. And whilst I could help her sell her home, the buying process was a whole nother ballgame. Hearing her ring up estate agents and them saying to her, we need to register you. Well, what does that mean to her in her 70s? And then asking her for all of her personal details before they would even talk to her. And anybody who knows daytime TV will know that Angela Rippon will say, don't give out your personal details. They're scared of being scammed, quite understandably. And so I realised there was a problem here. But Mum and Julie are not alone. There are 35% of all homes in the UK are owned by somebody over the age of 65. And 41% of those older homeowners have not moved home for over 30 years. That's pre-Rightmove, and that's people living in properties that they purchased for a very different chapter of their lives. Now, while some are absolutely thriving, as you can see from the statistics here, many are not. And also many admit to being overwhelmed by the idea and burying their heads in the sand. Hence why 40% of moves in later life actually aren't planned, and they happen at crisis point. Now the impact of that is threefold. That impacts the health and well-being of the older homeowner who's living in a property that's no longer suitable for them, and then crisis hits and they have to navigate the stress and loss of control that happens then. It impacts their family members and loved ones who are worried about Mum, constantly concerned that the phone's going to ring and she's had a fall. And if it does happen, then having to act quickly and make quick decisions with little choice and little time and deal with that stressful scenario. And then there's the wider ripple implications on the property market, on social care, and on the NHS. The NHS spends £820 million a year providing hospital beds for older homeowners who cannot return to their home because the home is unsuitable. So why aren't they moving? It would be logical to move. Well, when you're asking somebody to move in later life, you're asking them to do three things: leave the current home, navigate a chasm of moving, and step into the unknown. So let's break those down. When you talk about leaving the current home, that's much more than just selling a property. Our homes are part of our identity, especially when we've lived in them for 30 or 40 years. It's where we've raised our children. That generation were homemakers and breadwinners. Those homes are full of memories and keepsakes, and they feel safe, even if they're not. So by asking someone to leave a home like that, it's asking them to let go of a huge part of their identity. It's not easy. And then there's navigating the chasm of moving. When was the last time you did something that you hadn't done for 30 years? Probably never. It's a big ask. And maybe, like Julie, they're bamboozled by estate agents, or they're worried about paperwork and legal paperwork. Maybe they're not particularly internet savvy, and everything is online these days. Why can they not just have a conversation with somebody? And then there's stepping into the unknown. When we move earlier in life, it tends to be aspirational, and we're stepping towards something. In later life, it's quite different. Most of the time, it's not seen as aspirational. And the options for later life living are vast and confusing. Assisted living, retirement complexes, integrated retirement communities, mainstream housing, share of freehold, leasehold. It's all confusing and overwhelming. Where should I move to? Should I move closer to family? Should I move closer to amenities? I had a client last week literally say to me, people keep asking me where I'm going to move to, and I just don't know. But it doesn't need to be like this. Imagine if there was a service that understood that moves in later life are complex and unique. Imagine if there was a service that saw the person as well as the property. Imagine if there was a service that understood that leaving your home of 30 years is not easy. And imagine if there was a service that helped those people navigate the chasm of moving in later life, supporting with paperwork and any of their concerns, maybe having conversations with them, maybe even delivering a letter, God forbid. And then imagine if there was an estate agency that would also help them navigate the next chapter. Actually, what is right for them in that next stage? What could that look like? Imagine if we had that. Would we then have people in later life feeling more able to leave the current home, cross the chasm of moving, and step into a new chapter in a property chosen for their current and future life stages? Would we have older homeowners thriving in later life? Would their family members be less anxious and worried about them? Would we be bringing mainstream housing and family homes back to the property market? Would we be supporting social services and the NHS? I believe that we would. In fact, I know that we would, and we do. This is what Turner's Oak does. We support older homeowners navigate the complexity of moving in later life. And by doing so, we change their world, we change the world of their loved ones, and we change the wider world. Thank you.
Well done. That was absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure many of us can resonate with, these issues. I remember seeing it with my grandparents. Where did the name Turner's Oak come from? That's my first question for you.
Thank you, Emily. So actually this here is Turner's Oak. Turner's Oak is an oak tree in Kew Gardens. For those of you who are old enough to remember, in 1987 we had a great storm. It's the one where Michael Fish said we were not going to have a great storm. And before that great storm, Turner's Oak was declining, it was diseased, it was basically dying. And in that great storm, it was uprooted and crashed back down into the hole that was left. And it took the team at Kew Gardens 2 years to get round to Turner's Oak with the expectation that they were going to be chopping it up. And actually what they found was that it was thriving. So a tree that had previously been declining because of the uprooting process is now thriving. And they didn't know why this was happening. But actually, that reoxygenation of the roots brought the tree back to life. And so whilst we don't kind of come along like a storm in the night and rip people out of their homes, we do see a really nice analogy with actually there is an opportunity to thrive on the other side.
Amazing.